All right, we're recording.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thanksgiving week edition of the Cover 4 podcast from a little chilly Tahlequah here in the 50s and north breeze coming down out of the northwest, and it's a little sharp out there this afternoon. And my partner in crime out there in Provo, he's got his half and half sweatshirt on, Randy Gibson. And how are things out in Provo this afternoon?
Oh man, it's sunny. It's got up into the high 40s, low 50s. It was very chilly in the low 30s this morning, and we got some snow already. Started snowing Sunday night after the big game on Saturday, which I know we're going to get into here in a
Yeah, we'll
little
get
bit.
into that here in just a minute because our leadoff story this week, well, it comes from just up the road at Northeastern. The Redmond and the MIAA, it came out yesterday about 12 noon. I got a phone call from former sports editor of the Muskogee Phoenix, Mike Kays, and asked me if I had seen it. And I said, yeah, I just saw it. Here's what it is. This coming from the MIAA, the conference that Northeastern State University is in. The Mid America Athletic Association CEO Council has approved a request by Northeastern State University to temporarily pause its MIAA football membership to compete as an independent in NCAA Division II, and this will be effective next season. So it's going to be very similar to what Lincoln did this past year. Lincoln leaving the league at the end of this school year. They're going into the Great Lakes Valley Conference. This is going to be, they'll be joining former MIAA members, Southwest Baptist, what is now known as Missouri S&T. We know it as Missouri Rolla, and then formerly Northeast Missouri, now known as Truman State up in Kirksville. So is there something brewing? Here's my speculation, and this has been speculated for several years, and we've been watching the Great American Conference, which is the conference that the Redmen and the Lady Reds should have went into. In fact, they were told by the father of Tahlequah Athletic Director Matt Cloud, his dad Gil Cloud, former AD at Union, former AD here at Northeastern and at Arkansas Tech and Upper Iowa. He told then athletic director Jeff Kanya, former NSU president, and at that time president at UCO Roger Webb, and the president at the time here at NSU Don Betts, that we needed to get into the Great American, even though it was a brand new conference with 6 Oklahoma teams and 6 Arkansas teams. They didn't listen. They thought it would be more prestigious to be in the MIAA, which was very established. It's been over 100 years in existence now. But they did not realize that you were going into the SEC of Division II. And that's what has occurred. Now, that's one thing. Could Oklahoma Baptist or Southern Nazarene possibly be thinking about dropping football? That is a requirement in the Great American. So could that be happening? That's speculation number one. But we've thought that for the last, oh gosh, probably 8 years at least.
Mhm.
But here's the other conference that I'm looking at, a conference we used to be in, the Lone Star. They have lost a number of their members, two in particular, Abilene Christian and Tarleton State. They are now 1AA or even 1A schools now. So all their programs now are Division I. So you would not have to go to Stephenville. You wouldn't have to go to Abilene. The main one now would have to be Angelo State. They're probably one of the main ones that we know about. Them, Midwestern, Texas A&M Commerce, Eastern New Mexico, Texas A&M Kingsville. But they have also got three other teams that are way out in the one's out in the boonies, and two is you got to get on a plane to go play these two. One is Western New Mexico on the other side of New Mexico. And the other two members is because their conference out west had dissolved. And that is Western Oregon and Central Washington. In fact, Central Washington is in the Division II playoffs. They defeated Bemidji State in the opening round last weekend. So they've only got 9 football schools, but they've got almost that many non-football playing schools. One of them is Arkansas Fort Smith, who's leaving the league and coming into the MIAA next year. So could there be a kiss and make up and go to the Lone Star Conference, possibly in 25? We don't know. The one thing is the decision and approval gives NSU a greater chance to gain success and rebuild its football program to MIAA standards. It also allows the MIAA football programs to strengthen their schedules to better position themselves for postseason play. That is from the MIAA office. We'll compete as a Division II independent, so our games will not count in the MIAA next year, just like Lincoln's didn't this year. Also, with the schedule being released in the spring, we'll play the football season as a non-conference opponent with NSU's agreement and approval from the MIAA. Football playing institutions will have the option to find other non-conference opponents the week they would be scheduled to play the Redmond next year. So that's what we tried to do. And we weren't able to find an opponent for Lincoln, nor for us. So that was done. 25-26 schedules will soon be approved and will not have NSU on the schedule. And then possibility of 27, they would reassess, see where we're at. But I think there's that possibility that we might be in another league by then. Now, how much will it cost Northeastern? Okay, there is a separation fee. If NSU leaves the league immediately, then it would cost NSU $250,000. That was told several years ago by former athletic director Tony Duckworth. We had a meeting up at NSU, and there was a bunch of us there. In fact, we had to move it into the event center seating area when they had this meeting, and this was probably 5-6 years ago or longer. We had been in the league like 10 years, and they talked about this. This was before COVID, so the fees are $250,000 immediate separation. If you give them 1 year notice, it's $150,000. 2 year notice, it's $100,000. 3 year notice, it's either $50,000 or nothing, one of the two. I'm not real sure about that third year, but I think we're probably looking at leaving the MIAA possibly, which would be a good thing.
I agree.
If we go to the Lone Star, we get out of Super Region 3, which is Northeastern being in the MIAA, the the Great Lakes Valley and the Great American. Those are the three leagues in Super Region 3. We would go into Super Region 4 with the Lone Star, the Northern Sun, and the Rocky Mountain. So that would be the old region that we used to be in when we were in the Lone Star. It was the Rocky Mountain, the Lone Star. Back then it was the Heartland, but the Heartland is no more. It's it went kaput a few years ago, and that's the reason why Newman and Rogers State are in the MIAA, and now UA Fort Smith is coming into the league starting next year, but they don't have football, just like Rogers State, and Newman doesn't have football. So going to be very interesting to see what takes place between now and probably not just the beginning of football season in September, but I think we'll probably know something more before we kick off in September, what we may be doing in 25.
I hope we do. When I saw the release hit the wire yesterday and I read it, I was pleasantly surprised. I will put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to see that Northeastern is taking some steps to try to better their program. I hope the school and the community and the alumni will also do some things at this time to better the facilities as well. It's desperately needed. We talked about that last week.
Yes.
Now, I'm biased. I am a big supporter of now former coach J.J. Eckert and the deep ties he has and his family has to NSU and the football program and to Tahlequah itself. I wished they would have done all of this before they hired him. But that's in the past, and we got to move forward.
The problem we had there was, I think you look at it, I think the biggest problem was at the very top.
I agree.
And I'm not talking athletic director, because at that time, the athletic director at that time was Matt Cochran.
Yeah.
But you've got to go up to the very top of the food chain.
Yeah,
president
I
of the
agree.
university. And I do not know our new president. I have not met him. I do know that he came from Lake Superior in Michigan. I know that much. Uh, they did not have football up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think he knows enough about football, being from around the area of not only Michigan, but Michigan State, to know that football is the sport that stirs the drink.
That's
And you
right.
know that as well as I do.
Yep,
So,
it is.
uh, and we've got a guy in there as an athletic director in John Sizemore that he knows that we've got to get these facilities redone. He knows that. He's got drawings already of what we need to do at every facility. I'm not just talking football. Uh, what we got to do in basketball with the new, even with the new building, the problem is the HVAC is horrible. Back
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. Need to do some stuff in there. Uh, the floor is good, but we got it from the uh, Elite Eight that was played in our NRG Stadium in Houston. We
Mm-hmm.
bought it from them, which is one of the best ways to go because the NCAA sells those floors just like at the BOK Center. When we had the 3 NCAAs that I worked, those floors were for sale,
Right.
and they
Yeah.
can they can sand them. In fact, Muskogee bought one at the Civic Center. They got one from one of the regionals, and it's sanded to their specifications. They put whatever they want down, which they're at the Civic Center. They've got all 3 3-point lines: high school, college, and the pros on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we no longer have the Bedouin Shrine Classic since COVID, we haven't
Right.
had that for 5 years. But I'd love to see it come back. But I'm not real sure uh, what our membership and would do. And when I mean our membership, I am a Shriner and a member of the Bedouin Shrine Temple, and Dad
Mm-hmm.
was one of the founding fathers of the Shrine Classic. So, uh, like I say, that I think you're going to see turf at Rousey Field for baseball, uh, softball. That's a possibility too. Soccer really needs to have their own locker rooms because they share them with softball. They have to walk
Mm-hmm.
across the street to get over to the get to the soccer field. Uh, New scoreboards all the way around. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
football,
All the way.
basketball, baseball,
Everything.
yeah, everything. And scoreboards alone, you're talking probably in the neighborhood of $4 million
Mm-hmm.
in all boards, uh, because you're going to want football to have pretty much all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, uh, I would like, they've got 2, kind of like they hold them from the ceiling uh, type of boards. That's what you need. You don't need the 4-way because all that's for is for the fans. And
Right.
they need to take the video board down that they've got in the middle, get rid of it, and go with an all-in-one on either one or both ends of the court. New shot clocks, et cetera, et cetera. Baseball needs to have not only runs, hits, and errors, and balls and strikes and outs, but I think I've got to look at the rule book. But either this coming year or next year, the clock, the pitch clock, comes into being in Division 2. It's already
Oh,
in
really?
D1. So
Yeah,
we
it
may
is.
have to look at buying those uh, either this coming year or next year. But I've got to look at the rule book to make sure and see when it's effective in D2. So and then softball doesn't have that problem, but they've got a new coach. I don't know who she is. I know talking to Megan up there, she came from Truman State. She was an assistant, but they haven't released it yet to say who she is. And then soccer's in good shape too. In fact, I think they signed a bunch of kids in the early signing period that just getting ready to conclude here. So, but that's what's on the northeastern front right now. And let's talk about that ball game you saw out in
Oh man.
Provo, and say that you were a shade nervous would be the understatement of the year. As the Sooners
Yes.
in 31-24. The field, I watched the ball game before I had to go to Fayetteville for a little bit, and the announcer said that thing, well, it had rain, they had the field covered, but
Hmm.
the problem was it was like a skating rink.
It was just like a skating rink, and we sat up there in it, and it didn't. I went back and watched the game after. In watching the game, it didn't look like it was raining as hard as it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was really coming down pretty hard at times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have talked about this from the very first episode. We've talked about it all summer long. This game has been circled as a worrisome one for me. And everything that we talked about came to pass pretty
Yes.
much.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many factors. We worried about it being in November. The cold made a difference. It was cold. The rain, we're really lucky it didn't snow. It started snowing Sunday night, so we missed it by just over 24 hours, the snow. Um, but the rain was coming down. Dylan Gabriel has shown, and his pattern is he doesn't play well in the rain or in bad weather conditions, especially the cold rain.
Mm-hmm.
The field, BYU is supposed to be getting new turf next year with their Big 12 money. The field is not in good shape. They both teams were slipping and sliding everywhere. When I went back and watched the game, I noticed even more than I saw at the game. Players, Oklahoma was having a hard time making cuts. The running backs were having a very difficult time. Receivers were having a difficult time making cuts, but it wasn't just Oklahoma. BYU had receivers that were slipping and falling down on their routes too. And in fact, I can remember specifically, I saw a BYU player go in motion and fall flat of his back before the ball was snapped, just while he was running in motion. Um, so when you said it was like a skating rink, it was like a skating rink. Um, the altitude, I've said it from the very get go, and I think a lot in Oklahoma. Now they did have oxygen on
Mm-hmm.
the sidelines for the players,
Yes,
which was
that's
good.
good. Yes.
But the Oklahoma players, they didn't realize, and they've said it in post game interviews, they didn't realize it would affect them that much as
It's a
it
big
did.
factor.
It's huge. You have to realize Norman sits at about 1,200 feet above sea level.
Mm-hmm.
Provo sits between, it's more than 4,500 feet. It's somewhere between 45 and 4,800 feet above.
Mm-hmm.
Huge difference.
Yes.
Billy Bowman, who had the wonderful interception return for 100 yards, which was really a 14-point flip
Right.
because BYU was going to score 7, and instead Oklahoma got 7 out of it. It was a 14-point flip. And if you noticed, when he hit about the 50-yard line, he started slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And the BYU quarterback was the one trying to chase him down and almost got to him. If he had another 10, 12 yards to go, he'd have probably been caught.
Mm-hmm.
But he said himself, that he did not think the altitude would affect him as much as it did. And the way he put it, he said it was a weird thing. He said, we're out there running around in warm ups, everything felt fine. And then all of a sudden, you just kind of started feeling tired. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden, just boom, you're exhausted and drained. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly the way it works. And that's what the players were feeling. And they weren't quite ready for that altitude. They only came in one day before, and it takes, and I mentioned this, it takes 2 or 3 days at least to get
Yes.
prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I've been concerned about all along. The Oklahoma radio crew, in calling that interception play, when Bowman passed the 50-yard line, even their crew and their play by play said he looked like he was dragging a sled
Mm-hmm.
that last 50 yards. And that's exactly what it was like.
About
The
like
weather.
good example would be watching the tractor pullers, and
Yes.
then the sled comes up and then hits the top of that sled, and then those tractors finally, or even pickups,
Right.
grind to a halt. It was similar.
It was just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that play probably saved the game because BYU was poised. They had all the momentum. They were poised to go up at that point. And had it not been for that particular play, OU probably would have walked out of Provo with a loss.
Yeah.
BYU had 3 turnovers that were costly to them. It gave Oklahoma 21 points.
Mm.
Um, and this game was BYU's bowl game.
Yes.
I've said it all summer. They have looked forward to this game. This game has been circled. The fans, it's the nicest fan base you'll ever see,
Yes.
but they were loud, very
They were
loud.
very loud. It was,
And
I would say, as loud as probably the Arkansas Texas game 2 years ago
mm-hmm.
would be
it is,
similar.
they have about 65, 68,000, something like that is their
Mm-hmm.
stadium. They're actually the biggest stadium in the new Big 12.
Yeah.
Outside of Oklahoma and Texas, they're number 3 right now.
Mm-hmm.
They were every bit as loud as the Palace would get down in Norman. And they cheer their team hard. The fans cheered like champions. The players played like champions. Hats off to BYU. If they can get together and kind of get a feel for what the Big 12 is like, and this is exactly what I've told many people who are BYU folks around here. BYU coming into the Big 12 is what I imagine Oklahoma's going to see going into the SEC next year. It's that big of a step up. And BYU struggled, and I look for Oklahoma to not have an easy time at all next
No,
year. And
it will
I
be
think,
extremely tough.
yeah, and that's what BYU has faced this year. I don't think they realized it was going to be as difficult for them as it's been. But this is one game they've looked forward to. They've been preparing for. It wouldn't surprise me if I could put a tooth serum in the coaches to say that the reason they did so poorly against Iowa State is because they were already preparing for Oklahoma.
Yeah,
And
I would almost say
and
that.
and you could see it. It was their senior day. This was the game they wanted to win more than anything else,
Mm-hmm.
and they almost pulled it off. Hats off to them. I told many of them they're gonna. I think in time they're going to do really well in the Big 12.
Yeah. You talked about new turf. Will they go to a rug, or are they going to stay natural grass?
I haven't heard. I'm going to try to find that out and give an update in the coming weeks. I'm not sure what the direction they're supposed to go in. I know the field's in really bad shape. It was obvious by looking at it. It's obvious by you could see it on television too.
Yeah.
It's not good turf. But
They
I
have the
know that,
same, excuse me, but they have the
yeah,
same problem probably growing grass up there as Colorado would have at Folsom Field.
I'm sure they do because grass in the wintertime when when the ground freezes, it's hard. It just doesn't grow.
Yeah.
So I imagine my gut feeling is that they're going to go to artificial turf of some sort, just for
Similar,
that very reason.
hopefully similar
Um,
to what we got out at Thompson Field.
yeah, I will tell you this though. I want to brag on the BYU fans for just a second. They, I kept telling everybody it's going to be the nicest away game you've ever been to, and sure enough, that's what they all said it was.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very dear friend that marched pride with me. He's very sarcastic. He One of his favorite things to do is go to an away game and heckle and just be a real pest, to be honest with you.
Oh,
And
he's the uh, your answer to Meathead, aka Bill Looney.
yes, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And he was laughing after the game. He said, I couldn't even be sarcastic because the fans all around me were too nice. And as we were walking to the game, and we're crossing 9th Street, and this car honks. This guy leans out the window. He's got his BYU gear on. And my buddy says, whenever the car honked and I saw the guy leaning out, I thought, oh no, here it comes. I'm going to get a gesture of some sort. And the guy leans out and says, welcome to Provo. We're glad you're here. So,
Uh-huh.
um, visiting fans get free ice cream and popcorn.
Hmm.
Um, it, so many people we're so excited to play you guys. We're so glad you're here. We hope you enjoy your time here. Of course, I was decked out in my Sooner red. They didn't realize that I lived here. And I just couldn't be more pleased with the reception that Sooner fans got. Every Sooner fan I talked to, which was several, said the same thing. They were like, this is unreal. We've never been to an away game like this before.
Yeah. And
So
Arkansas was the same way last year because they went out to Provo.
mhm. If you ever get a chance to come and experience BYU game day, I would encourage you to do so, even if you're not a BYU fan.
Uh-huh.
Um, the scenery is absolutely gorgeous. The setting was just immaculate. It was just totally beautiful out there, with the exception of the rain. But
Yeah.
setting up and looking at the mountains and stuff, it was great. But pretty much everything turned out like all of my concerns were valid.
Yeah.
You know,
The
the
word.
weather, the weather, the field, the altitude. Uh, Sooners, honestly, they were fortunate to come out with a win.
Mhm. Well, they've got TCU Friday
Hmm.
at Owen Field. Take on the Horned Frogs. The game is on Fox Friday morning.
Hmm.
Don't know who's got it on Friday, but
Not sure. It is going to be better. It's supposed to be a sunny day right now.
yes,
Uh,
it is. I've got,
so uh, looking, Oklahoma's an 11 and a half point favorite last I looked.
mhm.
Um, Oklahoma should win that home game. But again, you just never know. TCU took Texas down to the wire. Uh,
Yeah,
you just never know.
you don't know, and Sonny Dykes is a pretty darn good coach, as
Yeah,
you and
he
I
is.
know. Um,
Um,
he
Big 12. The game is going to still have Big 12 championship implications. Depends on what happens Saturday. I look for Texas to be in the championship game. If I was like my brother and a gambling guy, and I had to gamble on it today, I would say it would be Texas and Oklahoma State
yeah,
will be
that's
the Big 12
I, I
championship
have
game.
I have said that it's I would love to see it be an all orange Big 12
I think
championship game between burnt orange and America's brightest orange. And it
I
could
think you may get your wish there.
and the TV crew, I just now looked at OU's notes. Uh Josh Sims will be on the field, Timmy B and Spencer Tillman.
It'd be fun
So
to have
Tim
Spencer back.
Brando will be making the trip from Shreveport, Louisiana, from the Chateau Brando, and will be the play-by-play guy. And Spencer Tillman, former OU running back, will be, as he always is, the colored analyst for that ball game on Friday afternoon there in Norman. So I know
Yeah.
one thing you were talking about here in Toby, one of my former classmates, Terry Shell Miller, and a number of people were complaining about Toby.
Oh, really?
He needs to throw his thesaurus away. And I tend to agree with her. You know, as well as I do, you tried to get me to be that guy that would have replaced Bob Berry. This is back when you were working for the Nation, and Cherokee Nation was a sponsor of Sooner football at the time. And we sent a few DVDs of my play-by-play calling of Sequoyah football, and didn't even get an interview
No.
because I think Toby had already been picked.
Right.
And
Right.
he worked for Channel 9 at the time. So,
Right.
uh,
Just an update. Dylan Gabriel, Brent Venables. Of course, you won't know for sure. He did go into percussion. Think of drums. He went into concussion protocol at halftime. He took a pretty hard hit on that field.
mhm.
The hit was a clean hit, and it was a clean tackle. There was no malfeasance on BYU's defender at all. But Dylan's head hit the turf pretty hard. He didn't come out of halftime. They burned the Jackson Arnold red shirt, and the freshman took him the whole second half and out of Provo. Venables said that he's expecting Gabriel to be back maybe by Friday, but with that fast turnaround, we just really don't know exactly who's going to be Oklahoma's starter on Friday.
Now, how many games has Jackson Arnold played?
5.
Huh?
5. 5.
Okay, this is his fifth game. So
that was his fifth game.
So he is now.
They burned the red shirt.
They had to burn it then.
They didn't have a choice. Yep.
Yeah, no choice at all. Well, we talked about Oklahoma State. They rallied to beat Houston in Houston, 43-20. Typical second half for the Cowboys as they turned on the afterburners along with Ollie Gordon and defeated the Cougars 43-30. And now BYU's got to go to Boone Pickens. 2:30 on ABC, on Channel 8 on Saturday. A win, and like I say, they'll go down I-35 until they get just north of Arlington, and then head into Jerry's World for the championship game, which is an 11 o'clock kick. That is always the Big 12 championship game is always the early kickoff out of the 3 time slots, with the SEC having the 2:30, and then ACC is the 6 o'clock, I believe, or the Big Ten. Check that. Big Ten is the 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
Oklahoma State, they had a tough one down in Houston.
Yeah, they did.
Till the end, and they kind of pulled away a little bit. I look for them to be the victor on Saturday, but BYU plays like they did last Saturday. It will be a good game.
Yeah. The problem with that is going to be is BYU might have shot their wad.
I'm afraid they did.
Yeah.
And playing in Stillwater will help OSU.
And both teams, because now you're not going to have to contend with a slick field.
Right. Again, if I was like my brother and the gambling guy, I would put my money on OSU.
Mhm.
Um, I think their I think their offense for sure is more high powered than BYU's. We'll see what happened though. That's why you play the game.
Exactly right. Tulsa, they played their final home game at Skilly Stadium Saturday, lost to North Texas 35-28. Uh, that's their sixth straight loss
Mm,
this year. They got to get on the plane, go to Greenville, North Carolina. They take on East Carolina. Final game of the season for first year head coach Kevin Wilson as they take on the Pirates. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff. That's going to be a digital game. That'll be on ESPN Plus. So if you want to watch the Golden Hurricane, that game will be on the internet. That'll be the only of the four games of the Big Four that will be broadcast on the internet. So Arkansas, they've got a game Friday. That game will be on CBS, 3 o'clock. The Battle Line rivalry, sponsored by Shelter Insurance, Mizzou, and Arkansas. Final game of the season for the Razorbacks. They are like Tulsa and Colorado and a few others, and also BYU, going to wind up a game short of getting bowl eligible. But
yeah.
they look good Saturday night. I had that game for ESPNU. I was doing official stats up in the booth. Worked with Brian Custer and Rod Gilmore. They were doing the play-by-play in color, and Lawrence Sisler down on the sideline. The Razorbacks won 44-20, but they might have found them a running back.
Good job.
They this kid had to come in. They were going to take a look at him anyway. He's a freshman. He's a true freshman. And let me see if I can pull up the kid's name. I mean, I don't have my stuff here that's from the ball game. Hang on just a second. Let me get it.
Sure.
Because I've got it behind me. Oh, all right. The flip card from the ball game. Name is Isaiah Augustive. He is a freshman, 6'2", 208 from Naples, Florida. True freshman. He was number 5 on the depth chart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You had Rocket Sanders, had AJ Green, Rashawn DeBinion, and Dominic Johnson were the 4 that was listed.
Hmm.
Well, Rocket winds up with a torn labrum, got hit, and the late in the first quarter, early second quarter, he got hurt over on the FIU sideline, and he was out. Dubinion suffers a meniscus injury. Both of them are probably, I know Rocket's out for sure because he's probably going to have surgery before Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Dubinion may not play. So you may see this kid. He wears number 23, and he gained 101 yards on 14 carries.
Oh,
Only the
wow.
second Razorback to rush for 100+ yards this season. The only other one was Rocket in the game against Florida.
Oh, wow.
So you talk about the injury bug hitting Arkansas, and they have been ravaged with injuries, and that's one of the main reasons why they lost 6 straight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they lost Luke Hass in the A&M game to a broken collarbone, and it just freaking snowballed from there. But they got the win after the game. Hunter Yurachek, the athletic director at the University of Arkansas, came in the locker room, told the players and coaches that Sam Pittman will be the head coach
I saw
in
that.
24. And everybody
Did
was
that,
very happy about that.
I was going to say, did that surprise you a little bit?
Hunter needed to go in there and tell them that
Mm-hmm.
there was going to be no change. It had been rampant for the last 2 weeks over there. I mean, the media has been on Sam's butt, and the social media people too have been on him for the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. And the seat got hot over there. And Hunter finally had to say, hey, wait a minute, he's our coach. And he had to come out publicly, and he not only in the locker room, but he posted it on the internet, on Twitter and everything else that he's on, that Sam would be the head coach in 24, mainly to help with recruiting. Because it's like Sam said, all they were doing was hurting the Razorbacks recruiting.
Yeah, they were, because
And
others were selling, I mean, I'm sure the other coaches were going in saying, we don't even know. You don't even know if he's going to be your coach or not. They're in a lot of turmoil. So,
well, it got quashed Saturday night after the ball game, which is
good.
good.
I was glad to see it myself.
Yeah. So this will be a big one. This one will be Arkansas's bowl game, and it would be nothing better than to beat Mizzou, get that trophy back. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, Drinkwitz, the head coach, Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach at Mizzou, he used to coach up the road. He used to be the head coach of the Red Dogs of Springdale. So it would be nothing nicer but for Sam to send the hot seat back up to Columbia.
Yeah,
And
we're
they barely got out of Columbia alive Saturday. You've heard of Dicker the Kicker, which
oh
Cameron
yeah,
Dicker from
yep,
Texas.
Texas.
Okay.
Yep.
They have a kicker. They call him the thicker kicker because he is big. I mean, we're talking, I don't know how big he is, but we're talking wide. Excuse me. Probably goes about 240, something like that. He kicked
Wow.
the goal with 5 seconds left to beat Florida.
Wow.
And Florida, has been just terrible. They got beat by Arkansas. Kirby and Georgia just destroyed them in the rivalry game down at Jacksonville. Then they just barely lose to Mizzou in Columbia. And that was their last conference game. They're like Georgia, they're done with the conference. Georgia's got Georgia Tech, and Florida has to play Florida State minus their good quarterback who got hurt Saturday, broken leg, out for the year, and it probably will hurt them when the college football committee comes out with the CFP later this evening. I would say
I'm sure. Well,
Florida State may go to 5 and Washington may go to 4.
I could see that happening.
I could too. Uh, turn the page into high school. Well, the Indians of Sequoyah had their season come to an end at Kiefer Friday night. They lost 64-28 to the Trojans, 8-4 for the Indians in 2023 under head coach Chad Hendricks. Good season.
It was a great season for Sequoyah. They have nothing to hang their heads out. I was hoping they would get to come home for another playoff game for the next round, but
well, it wouldn't have happened. It did not. It would not have happened. They would have had to got on the bus and went to Alva.
Yeah,
Alva
I saw
went
that.
all the way down to Kingston and beat them, and the Goldbugs get Kiefer in the quarterfinals. And then the next round will be neutral sites for 2A and A. The rest of the classes, they have neutral sites this week. The big one's going to be at Sand Springs for the 6A1 semifinals. Bixby gets Owasso at 1, and at 7 will be Union and Jinx for the second time this season.
Man, wow.
And then the sad part of it is, for all those schools, they've got to go down the turnpike and go to Edmond because that's where they play the championship game.
Yep.
So it would be nice if they would play 6A1 at Skelly Stadium like they've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But UCO has given the OSSAA a pretty good guarantee to host the games there. And I don't blame them, mainly because the guy from Paycom spent that much money.
Yeah.
And to rebuild their stadium. And so let's look at next year as far as how the districts are. We've already went over Tahlequah's district last week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, 2A and 1A, there's going to be 2 divisions. They're going to bust them from 64 to 32.
Wow.
So there'll be 4 districts of 8. Sequoyah will be in 2A Division 1. They will be in District 3. They will have Beggs, Chandler, Henrietta, Inola, Prague, Sperry, and Westville. Those will be the 8 teams in District 3. Keys, on the other hand, they are going to be in Division 2. They're in the bottom 32 of Class 2A. Their district will be District 4, and they're sending them south. Atoka, Antlers, Morris, Spiro, Valiant, Vian, and Wilburton.
Wow. Keys has got some traveling to do.
Yeah, they do. That they
Wow.
do.
Wow.
At least Vian's in the district. That's a gate game right there.
Yeah, it is.
And then the Hulbert Riders, they will remain in Class A, but they'll be in Division 1. In their new district, they'll be in District 3. They're going to do a little traveling too. Pawhuska, Shoto, Mounds, Nowata, Pawnee, Tonkawa, and Wyandotte. So they will have quite a travel up north. They'll be the southernmost team in that district.
Yeah, they will.
So,
Interesting.
yeah. But I like the idea of going to 2 divisions.
I do too. I think that will help
Yeah.
overall.
We're talking about how the playoffs are, here in Oklahoma. In Texas, they're in the 3rd round of the playoffs right now. And that's 3 rounds out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
The 6th round is the state championship at Jerry's place.
Oh, wow. Really?
For
Okay.
all classes, including Class 1A, which is 6-man. So I'm looking here. I've got a little thing here somewhere on my phone. I have pulled that up about, there it is right there, about the UIL's playoffs. You play them on essentially a neutral site in every round except 5A, 6A can play the first round on their home field, whoever's first in their district. They
Good.
if there is coming up here, finally found it here. If you have not played each other the last 2 years, then there's a coin flip to decide not only who the home team is, but also if it's going to be a home site or a neutral site.
That's interesting.
Here's the scenario. Okay, say San Antonio and Dallas have not played the last 2 years.
Okay.
You designate the potential sites. For example, San Antonio neutral would be Belton, and Alamo Stadium would be home. Dallas, Temple would be neutral, and the Cotton Bowl would be home. The first flip is to the site, whether it be home or neutral. Heads is home and home, tails is neutral. Comes up heads, so it'll be at whatever home site it'll be. Flip for see who wins home. Dallas calls tails for home. Heads for San Antonio, comes up tails. Game is played at the Cotton Bowl at Dallas's home site. So that's how that is.
Is it actually played at the old Cotton Bowl or at Jerry's
Yeah,
World?
well, this was just the example that the UIL has in
Okay.
the UIL book, in their football book. But
All right.
you can play. They're playing a lot of them now. It's just in the Dallas area alone. Choctaw Stadium, the old home of the Texas Rangers, is now a football field, which is where the XFL plays.
Okay.
Okay, that's one site. The Star in Frisco, which is the Cowboys practice facility, can seat 12,000 people indoors. McKinney ISD, trying to think, Grand Prairie, they have a stadium that's pretty good size. Then you go down to Waco, McLean Stadium is used where Baylor plays. There are others around, but they play in all different places. You could probably throw Melissa in there. They just built a brand new football stadium in Melissa of 8,000 people. So a 3A or a 4A could play a state playoff game there. If you wanted to go further north, you could go to Denison. They would not play at Sherman because the field at Sherman is still grass. And talking with Southeastern's broadcaster, who also broadcast the Bearcats of Sherman, Jay Lindley, they will never put turf down at Sherman is because the stadium, and we have all driven by that place on 75. He told me that's in a floodplain.
Oh,
That's the
so that's
reason
why
why
they
it's
keep
still
grass.
grass. That's the reason why it's still grass.
Interesting.
So the Bearcats will never play on turf unless they build a new stadium. But you drive right by that place if you're going down 75 to Arlington or to Dallas. So, yeah.
Passed it many times.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. Well, that's going to do it for football. Basketball starts Tuesday. For the Tigers, they have to go on the road for their first two. They got to go to Grove and take on the Ridge Runners to start the 20 where are we at 23-24 basketball season. And then they got to go to Claremore on the first. Then they open up with the Tahlequah tournament, and they won't have a actual home opener as far as a regular season game until the 19th when they take on the Collinsville Cardinals.
Wow.
So
we still got another month.
Yeah, as far as a true home game.
True home game.
True, they'll play 3 at home in the Tahlequah Invitational. Don't know who they play yet because they hadn't seen the bracket or anything, but get a chance, get on up there to the TMAC and watch the Tigers and Lady Tigers, Class 5A, and we'll see what happens with David Qualls being the head coach of the girls. And because of an emergency, Dwayne Jones coaching the boys again because the head coach resigned right about the time of the coaches clinic, went back to college, and Dwayne agreed to come back and coach him this year. I don't think I really don't know if he'll coach next year, but Matt will have plenty of time to look for a basketball coach for the 24-25 campaign.
Yeah, they're lucky they got Dwayne right there handy in the system already.
That's true. Well, he had retired, but he was able to come back and help them. And I'm pretty sure, as I call it, he is on the Ron Lancaster plan of they can pay him so much and he doesn't have to burn his retirement.
Right.
So
right. I'm sure the superintendent stepped in and helped him a little bit there. Did everything she could do too.
He can make so much before they start messing with his retirement. So I think it used to be like 18,000 or something like that. Ron Lancaster did that when he coached at Muskogee. He had retired from Jinx and Salisaw and went to Muskogee, and he was still drawing his retirement, but they were giving him a little stipend just underneath the where it would affect his retirement. So that's the reason why I call it the Ron Lancaster plan. So,
yeah.
But what's going to happen with the rivalry games this weekend? The first one the big one at the big house.
Yep.
That one's going to be interesting. Harbaugh's not on the sideline.
Nope.
Third and final game, he's in the cooler. I can hear Jim Madison right now at the golf course saying, I'd rather have a sister in a whorehouse than a brother in Michigan. He is a Buckeye through and through, like
Yep.
two other guys that spelled Gipson, not
Right.
Gibson.
Right.
Larry and Randy Gibson are also Buckeyes. I know they don't like Michigan, but not as bad as Madison does. Then the Iron Bowl.
Yep. That'd be another fun one.
I don't think it'll be that fun. I really think Alabama will lay the wood
I
to
imagine.
Auburn on the plains after
Yeah.
what happened Saturday. New Mexico State gets 1.8 million to play Auburn in that non-conference game, and Auburn gets throttled by New Mexico State, who's going to a bowl game, and the Tigers are not. And Nick pays Chattanooga, UT Chattanooga, I think it's 600,000 to come to Bryant Denny to play the Tide and get to hear Rammer Jammer at the end of the ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's two other big ball games out on the West Coast. Oregon State.
Yep.
And then the Apple Cup.
The Apple Cup, Washington State.
So those two games could have big implications.
They could.
In the CFP.
They sure could.
And also could have implications in the Heisman with Penix and
Nix,
who had a big day Saturday.
Yep.
So that'll be something we'll talk about. We'll talk about
those two games could have an implication on what happens to Texas, because they take on Texas Tech, which
I don't think it's played at DKR. That'll be Texas's final home game. Now if it was at Jones AT&T, I would say, I'd be a little worried.
Yeah, but I don't think there'll be a trouble for Texas. Won't have any trouble, I don't think.
They shouldn't. Like I say, Texas could have implications for them, and they'd have to play out and win next Saturday in the championship game for them to even be considered to get in the top four.
I kind of feel like, I kind of feel like Texas is going to be one or two out.
Yeah, I think they'll be one of the, the first two out is what I'm thinking. I saw this on the internet about bowl games. They're talking about who the matchups are going to be. I saw this on one site that OU could get a New Year's Six game.
Really? That surprises me.
The New Year's Six game. Jerry's World. The Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl? Really? That kind of surprises me. I figured they were, if they don't go to the championship game, I figured they were out of the New Year's Six.
Well, here is the New Year's Six game that they were saying. Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl in an SEC preview against none other than Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide of Alabama.
That would be fantastic. What a preview for an early early season game next year.
Yeah, or whenever they schedule it. They
I
haven't.
can't remember for sure,
They
but I
have
think
not
it's
released
in.
the schedule yet. They have not released the schedule
Yeah,
yet
that's
as
true.
far
They
as
haven't.
when the
Yeah,
dates. We
I
know
know we're
who they're
playing Alabama,
playing,
but I don't
but
know the
not the
date.
dates.
That would be that would be a fun game to watch.
Hmm.
Um, that would be very interesting to see that preview.
I would. I would love to see an Alabama blowout
Of course, you would.
because, well, here's my theory. There is a kid whose dad used to be the athletic director here at Tahlequah. And I'd like to see number 13 play a ball game at receiver. And I'm talking Cole Adams.
Hmm.
I don't know if Cole got to play in that game Saturday. If he did, that would have been his first ball game playing for Alabama. Let me just jump in here and see schedule, get down to the box score. Let me see if okay, that doesn't have the stats. There's one other thing you can go to. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Pull that back up. Maybe it's in the recap. Oh, game book. There we go. Now I got there's more than one way to skin a cat here to find out if he played. So let's see. Alabama receiving. Yes, Cole played. He got to play in the ball game Saturday.
Good.
He played 2 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards, 2 yards after the catch, and longest was 7 yards. So he got to play his first collegiate football game against UT Chattanooga. So good for him.
Good for him.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Next year, when you go to Norman to watch him play Alabama, watch for number 13.
All right.
That is Cole, unless he changes numbers. I don't know if they'll change his number next year or not. I'm not real sure, but good that he got his first 2 catches of the his collegiate career, and the great Eli Gold got to call his name on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. So
Good deal.
that is really good, and him and Chris Stewart and I forgot who his other partner is up in the booth, but I know with it being at Auburn, Eli does not travel. He didn't call the games last year. He had cancer last year, but he's only doing the home games. But even though it's at Auburn, I fully expect Chris Stewart to be calling the game against Auburn come Saturday afternoon. So, nice thing you can do is you can listen to the ball game. If you got Sirius XM, 190, 191, or 192 is the designated channels for the SEC schools. You can either pick up, they may have Alabama there, or you can pick up the Auburn broadcast with Andy Burcham, who took over after the tragic death of Rod Bramblett a few years ago. And in fact, he was the color man for Rod. And then after Rod passed away, Auburn decided to move Andy into the play-by-play chair, and he's done a real good job calling the games for the Tigers. So Well, I think we have covered everything in their dog this week.
I think so. All sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, and like I say, next week basketball begins, and area wrestling teams will be kind of getting ready to get cranked up. Tahlequah, Sequoyah, and Hulbert, they'll be getting ready to go here in the near future. I haven't seen their schedules as of yet, but try to get those out here in due time. Also, one other thing about, we're talking about football fields with BYU. Ran into Mike Claiborne now after coaching at Hilldale for several years and used to be the girls golf coach here at Tahlequah. He's out at Keys now. Keys passed a bond issue. They're going to get turf next year.
Good for Keys.
And that'll be good. That
That'd be real
field
good.
gets torn up very easily. He thought
Mhm.
they were going to start working on it, I think, this week, but I'm not real sure on that. But might have to take a drive out there, maybe get an excuse to go out and talk to Jamie Houston out there, Jimmy Houston Outdoors, and see what the plans are in 24 for the Cougars. So,
Yep.
well, that will do it for our Thanksgiving edition of the Cover 4 podcast. And like I say, we'll talk about the upcoming championship games next week, talk about a few other things along the way as we transition from throwing the pigskin around to bouncing the basketball. So we'll do that, and we'll talk about that next week. From a partner, Randy Gibson out in Provo, Utah, I'm Jim Trickett. Thanks a lot for watching the Cover 4 podcast. So long, everybody.